As a kid, I remember how slow time passed. I don't know if you remember those days. It was recent for me, I know. The days leading up to Christmas were the absolute worst. They were just the worst. They were so slow. I could have sworn there was 30 hours in the days before Christmas. It's just like, why does it take so long? But now I don't even live one day at a time. I live like 1 week or 1 month at a time. There are like Wednesdays or Thursday mornings I'll wake up and I'll be like, here we go. No sleep until next Tuesday. And it's just like, here it goes. It just never ends. And as a priest, my days are very long, but the years keep getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Like there are times when I don't remember what year things happened. I kind of like, all right, it's 2023. Did that happen in 2019 or 2018 or 2020? They're just all mixed up at this point. I have no clue. So what I do, especially at the beginning of a new year, I like to go back and just look at my calendar. I'm a German. I take copious notes, and I put everything in my calendar. Like, if you call me, I typically will note that in my calendar that such and such called about such and such. Just because I'm going to forget otherwise. I got to have a note somewhere. And so my calendar is just where it all is. And so I was able to look back. I'm not going to give you the boring list of what I discovered in my calendar from this past year. But it is always such a blessing just to look back and to be like, yeah, this is where I've been. This is all the things God has given to me in my life. These are all the many things that I've been allowed and privileged to experience this past year. It's a great blessing. But when I do this, I like to ask myself 3 questions. Where was I? Where am I now? And where am I headed? Because I do this because for a very specific reason. There's this author, her name's Annie Dillard. And Annie Dillard wrote, how we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our life. I understand, just as much as all of you do, how easy it is to spend our days sprinting. And how easy it is to spend our days just trying to keep up with everything. Just trying to manage whatever life throws at me this morning. Just trying to keep our head above water. I get that feeling very, very well. Or maybe, like, that's one of the extremes. The other extreme is maybe you're retired. We're getting close to retirement, and you're just like, I don't know what to do today. I'll just watch TV or something. I'm just kind of bored today. But it seems like we live at the extremes. It's either sprint, dead sprint, or just waiting around for something, I guess. What I like to do then is at the beginning of this new year is you can ask yourself those questions as well. Where was I at the beginning of 2022? Where am I now? Where have I ended up? And based on that, where do I seem to be heading? Are your life, is where you're at in life, are you going in the right direction? And not the question, let's pause. This is not a question of, is your career going in the right direction? This is not a question of, are your kids' grades getting better and going in the right direction? This is not a question of, is my debt, is that going in the right direction? None of those things. I know that's the easy answer. This is self-reflection sort of a question. And I know self-reflection's hard. And we like to just say, I'll just do the things I need to do. But no, take a few moments today, sometime this week, and just ask yourself, where was I? Where am I now? Where do I seem to be headed if this keeps up? Because, and I know this isn't true for everybody, but I know it's a lot more true for more of us than we would presume. I think for a lot of us, when we begin to ask ourselves those 3 questions, we begin to respond with 3 questions very easily. And we begin to respond by asking, where am I? How did I get here? And how do I get back on the right path? Because here's the thing, every new year, each one of us, we're probably going to make some serious or not so serious goals for the new year, I know. And maybe we're going to accomplish them, maybe we're not. But each new year, I can guarantee you, at the start of 2024, each new year, that same need, that same desire is going to be present. And it's not a desire, it's not this need for more money or more free time or less stress, as much as those are on our mind too, I know. It's that desire, it's that ever-present need for something amazing, something unexpected, something that we're not maybe even too sure what it is, but we need that something. I was talking to a person once about the topic of faith, the topic of God, and this person, let's just put it lightly, they are not into that. Let's just say it that way. we were having a lively discussion. When you wear a collar, people want to talk to you about God, so I get used to talking about God a lot. So this guy, we were getting towards the end of our conversation, and he goes, Father, don't you realize man has been to the moon? And that was his cheeky and not so subtle way of saying, Father, don't you realize we've made some advances since the Stone Age? Don't you realize we don't need that church thing anymore? Don't you realize you don't need this faith anymore? Don't you realize we don't need that religion stuff anymore? Don't you realize we've gone past that? Don't you realize man has been to the moon? And I do realize man has been to the moon. I'm not an idiot. I know we've made a lot of advances. My point to him was, don't you recognize that this need, this something, is still present though? Don't you realize that as much as we can accomplish, and we can accomplish incredible things, don't you recognize that all of those haven't addressed that? So we have two options then. One option is to just fall into nihilism and depression and just say, whatever, I'll just move on with my life. Just keep up with the old trudge of the day. Or we can begin to pay attention to that. We can begin to give a little bit more attention to that something that we seem to desire and we can't seem to produce for ourselves. To pay attention to that, to expect something, to be waiting for someone. As Christians, this is literally what we do. I know for many of us, when we were being raised as good little Catholic boys and girls, good little Christians, we were taught I like to call it the wager version of Christianity. This is where you were told growing up, if you go to church on Sundays, and if you're a good little boy or girl, guess what? When you die, you get to go to Candyland, and it's going to be awesome. That's the version of Christianity and Catholicism that we're often taught. And if that's the one you heard growing up, I would like to personally apologize that that's what you had to endure. Because that's not what it is. That's not what we're doing here. This is not some big bet. This is not Las Vegas. We're not making bets here. We're here because what we're waiting for, that's something that we know we need. It has a name, has a face. It's currently a cute little chubby baby. Okay, we're here just like our second reading said. Just like the reading said, we're here because God sent his son to rescue us so that we might receive adoption as children. Do you all remember Christmas? It was a long time ago, to be fair. Okay, what happened at Christmas? God sent his son. Okay, why did God send his son? So he could be a cute little baby and Santa Claus could show up? No. God sends his son to rescue us. Okay, Jesus rescues us. Then what does he want? He just wants to force us to go to church on Sunday and be good little boys and girls. And then I guess it's really oppressive because we have to do all these things and I just don't really feel like that. Nope. God sends his son to rescue us so that we would become children. And if we're children, then heirs. What does God want us to do? He doesn't want to enslave us, just like our reading said, not slaves. We're no longer slaves. This is not some new slavery to this religious system. God wants to make us his children, to bring us into his family so that he can make us heirs to everything that he has. What does God have? Everything. God wants to give us everything. The fullness of life, the fullness of joy, the fullness of peace, all of it. That's what he wants to give to us. He wants to make us heirs to that. But where are you? Yeah, currently your butt is in a nice comfy little pew in the Father's house. But where are you? That's the question. Have you ever been at dinner with somebody and you're talking to them and then all of a sudden you're just like, hello, where are you? Feel like you're a million miles away right now? Never, of course. None of you. Not with your spouse, of course. No, that easily can be like that. I think of the story of the prodigal son. Story of the prodigal son. There he is, living in dad's house, the father's house. He's been given everything in his life, and yet his mind is always just a million miles away. Till eventually one day he says, Dad, can you just give me my inheritance right now? I just need to leave. And so his father does it, and this kid gets everything he thinks he ever wanted. Money, girls, parties. Until one day he literally wakes up in the mud, literally, and he asks himself, where am I? How did I get here? How do I get home? Again, maybe that's not you. Maybe it is. But I'd be willing to bet that for each one of us, there is at least one person we know in our community, in our family, in our circle of friends. Again, not in Africa or like we need to go to South America, like pretty close by. There's somebody in our life that has drifted away from God, from the church, drifted away from finding even just their life. They feel lost. Again, maybe that's you, maybe that's not, but again, it's a real thing. Because of this, here at St. Paul this year, we're going to embark on a journey of sorts this spring, and we're going to call it Rerouting. I like R words, the rescue, and now it's rerouting. I just love those R words. We're going to start on January 22nd, and it's going to continue through the spring. During these weeks that we're on this journey together, what we want to do is to begin to bridge that gap. And I've talked about that gap before, this gap between the faith stuff and my real life. We want to bring together what we do on church, what we do on Sundays, all this stuff, and we want to connect it to what we do out there in our day-to-day lives. Because God, what the cool thing is, God's revealed to us the answers to all of these questions, all of them. Where am I? How did I get here? How do I get back on the right path? God's given us the path to the fullness of happiness, to this enduring peace. God has shown us, just what our purpose is, just what our destiny is. And God's also revealed to us why we can trust him like no one else. So all of these things, we find them where? We find them in his word, in scripture. We find it in his sacraments. We find it in his church. It's all there. The question, though, is we have to be a little bit honest. How many of us have taken the time to dig into that? Or even more honestly, if I were to say, good luck, go for it, how many of us would know where to start? And searching it on Google doesn't count. Okay? Rerouting, as the name kind of suggests, rerouting, it's designed to help us find our way back to God, back to his church, to be able to ask those questions, to be able to engage our faith in a new way, but also then to discover what purpose we have, what the reason is for us even being born. What has God given to us? What's his plan for us? In other words, what we want to do is we want to take a deeper dive into the story of it, the story. Like we want to approach all of this with new eyes, with a new heart, a new openness. So again, beginning on January 22nd and through this spring, we're gonna do this by dedicating the homily to this each and every Sunday. So instead of you showing up to Mass on Sunday and being like, man, wonder what Father's going to talk about today, and I sure hope it's not as long as last week, and sure hope it's funnier than last time. Every week we're going to show up and be like, all right, we're on this journey. We're on this path. We're talking about something that connects to last week and it's going to keep us moving forward. So we're going to dedicate the homily to that on Sunday. Also, I'm going to put out a video each week, 20 to 30 minutes, taking a little bit of a deeper dive into what that topic was. Not a repeat of Sunday, but just kind of a fuller dive into that. Then I'm also going to put out it's like a discussion guide and reflection questions so that you can get together with one or two of your friends, 3 or 4 of your friends, and discuss that, to have this little small group. And I know what a lot of you just thought of, because I'm Catholic too. You thought, I'll do that first thing, Father, and then you can do the rest of the stuff. I'm Catholic, I know. It's just like, I'll do the first thing. But I would very much encourage you to take part and to kind of grab onto this idea of having a small group. What happens when we're in a small group is it allows us this time to ask our questions. I don't know if you've noticed on Sunday, who does a bunch of the talking? This guy. Who doesn't? You guys. Okay. What happens when we speak is everything begins to take on a whole new significance. Anybody in here a teacher? I know a lot of you are. Many, many teachers in the building. What happens when you read something is you retain about 10% of it. If you listen to something, you retain about 15% of it. When you have to teach something, or when you have to speak, you retain close to 90% of it. So just this simple act of speaking, of saying something, speaking your opinion, your own thoughts, all of a sudden it begins to take root in your life in a whole new way. And that's why these sorts of experiences, like a small group, can be very powerful and very transformative. And any one of us can listen to a podcast on our car and then remember close to nothing that happened. We just kind of zone out. It's just background noise. But the moment we have to speak, that takes on a whole new significance. Why are we doing this? It's because, like I started off with, there's that need within us. There's that desire that's there every single new year. No matter how well my year went this past year, no matter how bad it was, no matter what, that need continues to be present. And I'm not oblivious to the fact that it's easy to go through the motions. Excuse me. So if you want Mass to be more than just you checking off the box each week, if you want your prayer life to be more than just saying a few of those prayers that Grandma taught me to pray, if you want to engage your faith in a new and a meaningful way, this is why this exists. This is why we're doing this. And if you're wondering about the name, Rerouting, I do have my phone today. You pull out your phone, not right now. You pull out your phone, and if you pull up your GPS, this is what your GPS says when you take a wrong turn. It says, all right, let's reroute you. It just says rerouting, and then it'll give you that new path forward. Rerouting is something that we've designed so that we can get ourselves back on that path. So that we can make sure that wherever we started last year, wherever we're at right now, we can make sure that we begin to start heading in the right direction this year. So I would invite you and encourage you, if you need one goal for this new year, take this step. Take this meaningful step. And I know a lot of you are visiting for the wedding. It was a great wedding yesterday. It was a crazy time. But this is all going to be accessible online. So you can even follow along from wherever you came from. Again, it goes back, though, to asking yourselves those three questions. Where was I at the beginning of 2022? Where am I now? And where am I headed? If we're honest, we can easily answer that by asking, where am I? How'd I get here? And how do I get back on the right path? Let this be that path forward. Let this church that you show up to anyway, you're showing up here for some reason, let this be the path forward for you, to engage your faith in a whole new way, so that this can truly be something that's not just checking off a box on a Sunday, but something that transforms your life.